Hello everyone, welcome to What If Naruto Got the Solo Leveling System and Made Mega Harem Part 1. Before we start, please go support Franklin Jr. LeBron for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Naruto is a male. It has the Sung Jin Woo system. This story will focus on Naruto, and a bit on the solo leveling dungeons. Although it won't have anything to do with that universe, I might do something to use the void dimension later. The Uzumaki System, Chapter 1. We are in the Forest of Death, a remote place in Konohakure, the village hidden among the leaves and the country of fire. This is where the acclaimed Chunin exam was held, an exam where young ninja entered to ascend to the middle rank of the shinobi hierarchy. Called the Chunin rank, they were part of the shinobi elite. In the center of the forest, or more specifically a place a few kilometers from the center, there were some young people who seemed to be or were already directly having a fight. 11 young people were the total who were awake, while one was unconscious from the fight he had a few days ago, where he ended up badly injured because his opponent was none other than a Sannin, one of the most powerful ninja currently. Of the 11 young men awake, 2 were injured while 5 were on the sidelines and 3 more were about to start a fight against a black-haired man with red eyes and black marks all over the left side of his body. Sasuke Uchiha, the last Uchiha of the village hidden among the leaves and possessor of the Sharigan, was about to face 3 sound ninjas who attacked his lair while he and his partner were resting, leaving his friend Sakura to defend them. Although the girl was saved from certain death by the other genin of Konoha, Rock Lee, a specialist in taijutsu, hand-to-hand combat art, who helped her fight, although he also ended up losing. Sakura. Who did this to you? He asked, his voice a bit malicious. Malice that no one was slow to notice, and Sakura, the dangerous short-haired girl who was about to have to cut it in the middle of a desperate situation, tried to speak. Sasuke, It was me. The one who answered was Saku, one of the sound ninjas who had an arrogant smile. And seeing the responsible Sasuke, Uchiha went towards the sound ninja who did not wait for him to arrive to prepare an attack. Hypersonic cutting ball. Along with the pronunciation of his technique, a great wave of compressed air swept away everything in front of him, and unfortunately, right in front of the attack was the lair where the blonde, Naruto Uzumaki, was unconscious and defenseless. Seeing that he couldn't help his partner, Sasuke took Sakura in a high movement, getting out of the hypersonic speed attack, letting the attack travel to his partner's resting place, which in less than 1,000th of a second was buried in tons of wood, roots and rock. The young ninja of the Leaf Village were amazed, and some were worried for their friend. It was impossible for any of them to withstand that attack head-on, especially while unconscious. Unknown location. The blonde could be seen buried in some dark corridors with a gloomy tone and water up to his knees, with some pipes dripping in a continuous sound that would be relaxing to a certain extent, if it weren't for all the evil surroundings and the background breathing that seemed like that of a hungry beast. Where the hell am I? The young man with clear blue eyes wondered doubtfully, as this was the first time he'd seen a place like this. Come closer. What was that? The blue-eyed blonde was amazed and scared. That voice was the personification of pure evil, and it was not something he liked. Come closer. The voice ordered again, making the blonde tremble in fear again. Deciding not to anger the fearsome voice, he decided to head towards where he heard the sounds that he would classify as hellish. And upon reaching that place, I noticed the entire room stretched into a great void. The only thing left was the wall, which stretched to infinity where he came out, and the bars in front of him, which did the same. And through the bars you could see a large cell where a big smile and slanted crimson eyes looked at him with psychopathic amusement. Who would have thought I'd find my container so soon? Naruto, container? What do you mean, and what place is this? The blonde asked carefully. This place was not normal, and those eyes did not transmit any confidence in his being. So he was on guard. Even if it's no use. This place? This is where they locked me up 13 years ago. Minus 13 years old? Wait, you're the QB! Along with those words, the cell strangely lit up at a slow but steady pace, revealing a gigantic nine-tailed fox with red eyes and gleaming fangs. The fox was something from another world, As on all fours it could easily reach the height of a mountain. It was an otherworldly being. Its torso seemed to be able to change from human to animal, as just standing on all fours made its skeleton more animal-like than it had before. Kyubi, looks like you have a brain inside that head. What do you want from my Kyubi? The blonde asked, wanting to bury himself in the ground. Being in front of the Kyubi wasn't very soothing, nor was it comfortable or convenient at all. This thing wanted to kill him, and he didn't want to die. I wish you were dead, he said in a hateful voice that quickly changed to a calmer one as he leaned back on his two front paws, which seemed to change into more human-like ones in the process. But for the moment, that's not possible. Naruto sighed, though his doubt returned. So why did you call me? Kyubi, the reason is not me, but this, he said to expel a large amount of demonic chakra that started a strong wind that swept the blonde away. With no way to adhere to the water because of all the chakra around him, he also couldn't see anything because of the crimson chakra that completely covered his vision, and no longer willing to hold on, Naruto flew away, ending up holding on to the door that guided him to that place. Until all that brightness vanished along with the wind and the fox itself, leaving only an overwhelming darkness, while only a hologram with a few written words illuminated the blonde. You have unlocked the Luck of the Week achievement. This will give you a new lease on life as a player. Do you accept? Click here to learn about the policies and rules. A voice was heard coming from the hologram, greatly confusing the blonde, who took 2 suspicious steps back before moments later getting on guard and ready for the confrontation. Whatever trap the Kyubi is setting to kill him, it wouldn't work. Or so I thought, until I saw a part of the hologram with the word accept repeatedly, tapping for someone to touch it. What do I gain by accepting? In addition to the new opportunity, you will gain the power to fulfill your dreams and goals. That did interest the blonde. Being able to fulfill his goal of becoming Hokage was something he would never let pass, so with conviction and enthusiasm, he pressed the accept button, causing the hologram to disappear, leaving only the blonde. Hey! The blonde just blinked in confusion, hoping something would happen, but nothing actually happened. That shit was a hoax. What a scam. I was going to say, until a large amount of darkness with blue flashes began to appear covering and surrounding the blonde, who was surprised. What is th? He couldn't finish because the darkness consumed him completely, generating a perfect dome that slowly began to crack, until it exploded in a great blue flash that lit up the entire dark place, blinding anyone who could see it. Out of Naruto's mind, Sakura could be seen kneeling, while Sasuke stood behind him with his left foot on his back. The Uchiha had been cruelly destroying the sound ninja for a few minutes. You seem to appreciate your arms. How about we take them off? The question paralyzed Sakura for a few seconds until he quickly came to his senses. Please wait, please Sakura's words died as the horrible and grotesque scream came from his vocal cords, until a grotesque sound was heard and an unconscious Sakura fell to the floor without the possibility of being able to use his arms again for the rest of his life. Seeing that he had finished off the arrogant sound ninja, Sasuke began to head towards the girl who was badly injured on the ground, since she had just received an attack from her partner to, between fangs, free her from a mental procession that the blonde from a Konoha team had launched at her. Seeing the boy approaching, the young woman named Kintsuchi began to crawl on the ground. Her companion's attack had left her legs too damaged to be able to stand at that precise moment. Before the Uchiha approached the young woman, where Naruto's corpse should have been, an explosion of blue light came out that covered the entire improvised cemetery of the blonde, making everyone pay attention to that place. When the chaos in the blonde's grave calmed down, Naruto's burial place is the same without any change, which made some curious and stopped interesting others. One last burst of his chakra after dying? No, his chakra is orange, not blue, a black-haired man thought, looking at his ex-friend's grave, confused by what had happened a few moments ago. Where the sound kunoichi should have been, her vision focused and she noticed that she was missing. And noticing something, she slowly turned her head to where she felt someone very powerful if the pressure next to her said anything. Who are you? I asked a young man with dark hair, dark blue eyes, and formerly orange pants that were completely destroyed. The young man couldn't have been more than 14 years old at best. And he wasn't wearing a shirt because the size of his muscles left him in tatters. "Are you okay?" the stranger asked the young woman, who seemed lost in the face of the young black-haired man. "Something's wrong with you?" he asked again, while the girl's face was redder than a tomato in her prime. "You are so beautiful." The boy smiled with a drop of smile at the young woman's words, who didn't seem to see him. In a flash, the stranger disappeared from view, appearing behind the last sound ninja named Dosu, who had his arm extended toward the boy's former position. "Take your friend and go. Give me the scroll, too," the stranger said without much fuss, which surprised the ninja. The boy seemed faster than the Uchiha, and the Uchiha surpassed the hypersonic speed of Sokka's attacks. "Dosu, who are you?" he asked with a visible smile. Lord Orochimaru never told him about this possibility. Someone else of such a high level appearing like that as if nothing had happened, since the boy in green clothes was already a nuisance, this would be his end. Naruto Uzumaki Tebeo. Just by saying his name, chaos erupted among the Konoha ninja. They couldn't believe their friend's appearance. The boy who should have been under tons and tons of rocks and roots was standing there calmly. "It really is you," the Uchiha stated, amazed by the change his companion had undergone. He should have been completely underground, but here he was, so fast and different. "When you emerged from the rubble. Better leave that aside and give me the girl." "Naruto, why would I? You're done with the other one, he'll probably never use his arms again, so there's no need to hit anyone else." "Sasuke, you don't order me around, Naruto. Leave this by fair means or it will be by foul means," he spoke, while a large amount of purple chakra seemed to exalt the disgustingly chaotic presence of the Uchiha. Naruto only looked at him for a few seconds. Then he slowly lowered the girl to the ground and turned to his friend and teammate. The Uchiha, believing that Naruto had left the girl, began to walk towards her, until his face began to heat up and blood came out of his nose. This surprised the Uchiha, who stumbled, falling to his knees. "Naruto, you talk a lot but do little," the Uzumaki responded with mockery in his voice, but also surprise. His intention was to hit the Uchiha, but he was expecting a counterpunch or something like that. But the boy didn't even follow his fist, which brought a smile to his face. "So this is what you meant by the possibility of fulfilling my dream. So I'll be Hokage soon, Tebeo." He smiled, imagining himself with a Hokage hat from now on. The Uchiha stood up with a lot of anger on his face. Unable to contain himself, the Uchiha launched himself at Naruto, who blocked his attack with his forearm. Unable to give him any respite, Naruto grabbed Sasuke's shirt and, with a strong blow to the face, knocked the Uchiha unconscious, who fell to the floor. Naruto smiled again. He didn't know how to fight as well as the Uchiha, but his strength was much greater now. And he hadn't even used chakra since he woke up. "I don't know what I have, and I already love this new opportunity," he thought, but had to come back to reality. Seeing that Sasuke was no longer conscious, he decided to head towards Kin, who was waiting for him, sitting and surprised, perhaps because of her lack of mobility or because of what she had just done. "Naruto, Sakura, take Sasuke so we can go." The girl left her shock at what had just happened to head towards her unconscious companion, who didn't seem to have any plans of waking up. "Shall we go?" She extended her hand towards the young woman, who took it to slowly stand up, but she was about to fall due to her hesitation, so Naruto held her with his shoulder for support. To then take her in his arms. "Naruto, you're still not okay, from the looks of it," he whispered to himself. He didn't want to help her. He tried to kill them, but the truth is, Sasuke went too far with everything he did here. If his condition was his fault, he certainly went too far when he hit the girl. "Give me the scroll before I make you wear bandages for a good reason." The words were addressed to Dosu, who instantly took a scroll from his pocket to throw it at the black-haired man, who took it without fear of it being a trap or explosive. "Retreat. If I sense you within more than 1,000 meters around in the next 2 seconds, I will kill you." He finished, making Dosu take Zaku on his shoulder to disappear at high speed. "Did you really believe that I can feel it? You idiot!" The boy laughed mentally. How easy it is to deceive when you have the power to threaten. He liked that. Naruto, let's go, Sakura. He ordered to put Kin on his back, to start walking until a familiar voice called him from behind his back. Naruto? Asked a black-haired boy with a bun that looked like a pineapple and a lazy face named Shikamaru Nara, Naruto's childhood friend along with his friend Choji Akimichi. Yes, Shika, I'm the same, he said, turning around and smiling broadly at his friend, who sighed when he saw that his friend was still the same. Seeing that he could now leave, he decided to say goodbye to his friend, while right behind him, Kin stuck his tongue out at Shikamaru, who sighed. Troubled. Seeing the girl and her grimaces. See you, Shika. Without saying anything else, Naruto jumped, leaving Sakura, who followed him closely with her crush, Sasuke, on her back, to head towards the tower. Sakura looked at Naruto with Kin on her back, with several questions in her mind. And Naruto, who didn't even notice this. He was happy and joyful inside, and he could beat Sasuke up. That was something he had to cross off his bucket list. I love whatever happened to me, it's the most incredible thing. What more could I do? What more did that hologram give me? So many questions and no answers. Some time later. Both took a few minutes to get to the center tower, having to avoid the other ninjas in the surrounding area, who apparently hadn't gotten both scrolls yet, or having lost their scrolls and being close to the end to take someone's who already has them. Naruto, give me the other scroll, he said to his companion, who took the scroll from her lover's kunai holder. Holding both scrolls in his hands, Naruto read the message written on the wall in front of him. And he came to an interesting and highly commensurate conclusion. This doesn't mean anything coherent. He nodded, having just read a meaningless tongue twister. You have to open both in a connected way, Kin said, making Naruto blank his face. Naruto, thanks, I guess. He smiled as he threw both scrolls, which ended in an X shape, to steadily release smoke, causing a slight explosion of smoke to happen in the center, while a person very familiar to everyone except Kin appeared in the room. Looks like you miss me, said Irika Hamino, sensei of the Naruto Generation Academy and his generation classmates. Hello, Irika sensei, Naruto greeted, earning the Chunin's gaze, who put on a confused face, not knowing the person in front of him. Oh, I didn't remember seeing you in class. I was told only my generation would be visiting. Also, Sakura, where's Naruto? I'm Naruto, Tabeo, he whispered blankly. Because to him, he'd only changed in size and apparently in muscle mass, unaware that it was all part of the change. He didn't have a mirror to tell either. Irika, wait! Naruto! In flesh, hair, eyes, and bones. He smiled at seeing his sensei so shocked. It wasn't his intention, but you have to take what life gives you, and his sensei's shocked expression was the best he'd received so far. It's a long story. Could we talk tomorrow? He interrupted his teacher so he wouldn't have to explain something he wasn't entirely sure about either. Irika, WL, your rooms are at the end of the hall, Konoha area gate number 7. 3 beds but only 1 bathroom. You'll be there the remaining days of the exam. He gave a slight explanation, making Naruto sweat a drop. Naruto, the room number was enough, he thought with a drop of sweat on his head. Oh, and the hospital is on the right, in the first hallway, she said, looking at Sasuke and the unknown girl Naruto had on his back. He said, receiving a nod from Naruto since it was what interested him most. And saying goodbye to his sensei, the Uzumaki began to walk, leaving Sakura in his place. Sakura quickly followed suit, even though the Uchiha was on her back, which confused Irika. I have to inform the Hokage, he thought, watching the young men retreat. How a boy managed to do such strange things in less than 5 days was the question Irika had on his mind currently, and unfortunately for him, the question came unanswered. With Team 7. Naruto arrived at his room with Sakura, who laid the Uchiha down on one of the beds to sit next to him and wait for him to wake up. Are you going to stay until he wakes up? He asked, coming out of the bathroom of the room he had entered 2 seconds ago, putting on a pair of standard shinobi pants along with a sleeveless shirt that showed off his strong arms. Sakura, yes, I'll wait for Sasuke-kun to wake up. The girl, for the first time since Naruto had appeared, strangely spoke directly to him. And yet, her tone denoted how puzzled and confused she was, something obvious. Her companion had changed everything she knew about him in less than a minute. Without giving it any importance, Naruto simply shrugged. "Shall we go?" Kin asked him what smiled, nodding, to try to stand up but still had difficulty standing. Really, Zaku's hypersonic attack was very strong, so much so that you lose mental communication with some part of your body. "Sakura, where are they going?" "Nurse, she can't stand." With that said, Kin climbed onto his back to head for the exit, leaving Sakura behind. She watched her partner's exit, even stranger than before. Everything changed so quickly. Her love interest, Sasuke, acted like a crazy psychopath, hurting everyone no matter what. Naruto was distant, and with his lack of interest in chatting, he even seemed cold. It was as if they were crumbling away from the little tolerance and friendship they'd formed after the wave mission. "At this rate, where will Team 7 end up?" I whispered, looking at Sasuke, who grimaced, still unconscious. The Uzumaki System Chapter 2. With Naruto. "Kin, thank you for everything you do, even when I try to kill your team." "Naruto, don't worry, even though it bothers me a little. I feel like Sasuke didn't respond well to you guys," he said, not giving importance to the attempted murder of his companions. It was something that would normally make him indecisive. Before, he saw things in black and white. They were good and the others were bad. And with Sasuke, he'd most likely be undecided about whether Sasuke acted right or wrong. But that wasn't the question now. The Uchiha had acted wrongly, period. Defending himself and killing them was his right. Torturing them was already something that went against everything they'd been taught in Konoha. He was going against his principles as a ninja. Killing was fine. Enjoying it or torturing someone before doing it was another matter entirely. "Well, I can see your natural reaction. I mean, we did the same thing," Kin whispered, slightly surprised by the boy. Anyone else would have let her partner do whatever he wanted. Screw her, break her feet, or even grape her if possible. She would have done the same, though mostly because she didn't care what her partners were doing. "Naruto, are you planning on returning to your team?" "Kin, not in the long run, and they don't care. So long as this one lives to move on to the next caste phase." "Naruto, I hear disgust in your voice, you don't get along?" The girl didn't respond, which Naruto took as a yes. Seeing that they had reached their destination, he decided to go inside and leave the young kunoichi on a stretcher. "I'll leave you, I'll come back later," he said to a doctor who looked at him doubtfully, before leaving Kin with the doctor. "Hey QB, I want to know how to activate that screen again," he thought, praying to God that the QB could hear him, since he was basically in its mind. Luckily for the blonde, the QB heard his words and decided to answer. "Don't call me for your nonsense, human, just think about the hologram and leave me alone." Naruto smiled and then focused on thinking. System screen. Along with his thought, a blue screen appeared on the Uzumaki's face, causing him to look at it in doubt. This was very strange. He never thought he would have such an image on his face. Although the question remained, because none of the medical staff seemed interested. Maybe only he could see her? That would be incredible and very helpful. An unopened notification? He read mentally with doubt. So he decided to touch it, making a table of jobs appear in front of him. The message said, "Time to get strong. List of jobs to be completed. Do 100 push-ups, process 0 out of 100. Do 100 one-handed push-ups, process 0 out of 100. Do 100 squats, process 0/100. Do 100 sit-ups, process 0 out of 100. Run 30 kilometers, process 0/30. Naruto, and why would I do that?" The screen responded by projecting a few words. "If the tasks aren't completed by the end of the day, you'll be punished." Naruto shrugged, not knowing there was a punishment big enough to invite him to do such an exercise. "The punishment is that you will travel to an endless desert, with enormous worms that swim through the sand. Their speed will always be equal to yours no matter how much you evolve in power." Naruto, this is a joke, he thought, palming his face. Not wanting to find out if the worms were real, he decided to head to where the supposed finals of the exam would be. Upon arriving, he could see 3 sand ninjas training their skills, or so it seemed. Hello? The 3 young men just looked at him without any interest, although when they didn't recognize him, the young blonde woman and the boy in a boy's suit focused on him a little more. Who are you? The young blonde woman demanded, since they didn't recognize her appearance at any point during the 2 phases of the exam. Naruto. I am Naruto Uzumaki. We met 5 days ago near the entrance of Konoha. Are you that blonde? I asked indelicately. Yes. I'm that blonde boy, he said, jumping off the steps and landing easily in front of the group. Goodbye, he said, continuing on his way to the door, aiming to walk to find a place to do his homework. It was 4 a.m., and he'd have plenty of time until midnight. And what happened to you? The girl's voice asked, making him turn around. A small accident, a lot of weight on me appearing all great and nothing important. He stopped his description of the childish events and returned to his calm words. Even more concrete now, he still had those moments where he'd be like before. Well, goodbye again. He smiled as he continued on his way, but not before raising his hand and saying goodbye, not noticing that he'd left the blonde staring at him. Temari, are you red? Asked the boy in the cat suit and war paint. Are you going blind, Kankuro? This is a bruise from training, he said with a roll of his eyes to his brother, who shrugged. I was just looking at the possibility, it's not a big deal, Kankuro said with a shrug. On either side of them is the younger brother, Sabaku no Gara, who looked at the doors not with his murderous gaze, but with a cold gaze. Hearing that a boy possibly blushed his brother did not please him. He didn't seem to understand that it was just a misunderstanding. Since normally in the Sand Village they didn't worry about their sister dating someone since no one hit her for being their sister, but it seems that here there was no such fear. Gara, I'll kill you, Uzumaki. He thought like a madman, unleashing killer instinct like crazy. His brothers who noticed the instinct could only worry about what he was asking to do to them, but they didn't notice it, at least not in their legs and arms, since their faces showed their concern for the situation. Later, Naruto could be seen finishing his training set by the system, and it was barely 8 in the morning. With only 4 hours left until the end of the 5-day exam, he had to finish 2 more meters before returning to his room to shower. After finishing the 30 kilometers run, he sat down to rest for a few minutes, until the screen appeared on his forehead with the same workouts, but different. Time to get strong. Do 100 push-ups, 100 out of 100 process. Do 100 one-handed push-ups, 100 out of 100 process. Do 100 squats, 100/100 process. Do 100 sit-ups, 100/100 process. Run 30 kilometers, 30 kilometers per 30 kilometers process. System, you've completed today's challenge. You've earned 2 optional prizes. Choose one, a random box or 20 user points. What are user points for? The system responded by placing a hologram on the right. Points are used to improve your character's qualities. To use them, you must log into your profile. With that, a photo of the current Naruto appeared in the upper right corner with the word profile underneath. Okay, but what can I win if I open the random box? The box is mid-range, giving you a chance to get one item or skill between rank D, C, or B. Warning, the last one has a 12% chance. Seeing his odds, he paused for a few minutes to think. Previously, he would have taken up weapons or skills regardless. He always believed that more jutsu or skills were better, but against Sasuke, he discovered something. It doesn't matter if you have 100 skills, if you lose in one hit. But that didn't mean he didn't have the range, and that was a huge loss if he was up against people at his level. And in this exam, he could see people at his level, or even beyond. Even though it pained him to accept that. After thinking about it for a few more seconds, I made a decision. Give me the box. Even a D-rank weapon would help me in a battle, as long as it's sharp, it's fine, he said, touching the box, which began to open. You have selected a random box, the draw result is a sword? Does it have any special abilities? I asked, clicking on the description below the weapon. The system opened a second tab above the one I already saw. Description of the weapon obtained. I named Sword of Fire. Rank 5. Weapon description: straight single-edged katana, 1.30 meters high, with a simple black handle, just like the metal blade, smooth but common. Skills. Passives. Fire element grants the user a fire affinity, giving them the opportunity to learn the fire elements much more easily. If they already possess this affinity, it will only be enhanced to the limit visible to the user. Mastery: you will be a master of the weapon, having an understanding of common katas and styles. Being a rank 4, according to the weapon, any skill better than that rank is impossible with the weapon. Active. None. The weapon's range is not enough to have its own abilities independent of the user. Luck: 0% luck bonus. Limits: weapon mastery is only active when the weapon is in use. The wielder does not have such mastery with any weapon other than this one. Also, if the wielder somehow loses or discards the weapon, the fire element will be lost, and any fire element skills learned will be difficult to use. Specialty: none. The weapon's range is not sufficient to have a specialty independent of the user. Value: 45 million ryo. Naruto smiled at the sword. Tapping the X to close the tab, he returned to the main menu. It was certainly better than anything else he could have gotten. Basic, with some limitations, but nothing that would bother him. Although something confused him a little. Rank 5? In shinobi rank it would be rank D. Naruto nodded in understanding. Okay, I still have time. Do you have any other missions for me? System: yes. There's a specific one, tap the description so I can give you the details. Naruto didn't wait a second and instantly tapped the button, when the screen reappeared. Mission: Assassination and Stealth. Rank 4. Description: kill 53 bandits in a camp outside the Leaf Village. The bandits steal souvenirs and markers that move into the village daily, causing small losses for the Leaf. However, since this is the Chunin exams, these losses will be larger. Defeat them before this becomes an official mission for the village. Reward: 5 points for each bandit killed. Limitations: you will only be able to use the sword you've earned and your stealth. There's also a 3-hour time limit. Note: if you don't complete this mission, you won't gain anything, regardless of how many people you kill. That's why you must complete the mission in its entirety. Wait, what? He said in surprise. How do you expect me to do that? There are 53 bandits against me alone. Direct battle is not mandatory, you can use stealth. Naruto just nodded in defeat. The good thing is that he can kill them one by one without having to fight them all alone. He prays to God that there will at least be 5 of them on each side, or else he'll have to fight them all at once. And how will I get there? He asked, because that was another problem. System: mission teleportation. Naruto raised an eyebrow. And? The system spoke again. Mission teleportation is an event triggered when a long-distance mission is carried out and the player has no signature to arrive there. There are 2 ways to do so. Naruto: fine, send me, he said as he stood up. The system closed its windows, leaving one with the count of 3, 2, 1. With the last number, Naruto disappeared in a blue flash. Leaving the training room empty, the door suddenly opened by a newly arrived team. We finally did it, Akamaru! A bark was the answer to those words. Elsewhere, later. In a forest outside the Leaf Village, a camp full of bandits could be seen with nothing to do, while in a tree far from the camp, Naruto could be seen watching. He had been watching the guards' movements for 2 hours and could notice that the bandits rotate every 10 minutes with an interval of 3 minutes, leaving the leaders unprotected. During this time, the rotating bandits have also been eliminated. There have been a total of 42, since when the bandits rotate, they go to a village to spend the day. None of them, apart from the leaders, spend time there. That was a big advantage he liked. Apparently, they could leave at the end of their rotation and everyone would go drink somewhere else. So, them disappearing for all that time wasn't a problem either, and that made everything easier for him. Okay, time to act, he thought, opening the system to search for the sword from before. Receive sword, he said, but received a denial. System: negative, the sword has already been delivered. Naruto frowned, never receiving it as far as he remembers. You didn't give it to me, so what happened to it? System: the sword, not being ordered, fell into storage. Okay, open storage, he said, revealing a simple gray metal sword with a black handle and a few four-pointed stars adorning the handle. This sword occupied the first slot in the storage, which had a limit of 36 spaces, 9 for each line. Naruto began to think about what he could do with the space. It would be useful, maybe he could store ramen there. That's for later, Uzumaki, concentrate. The black-haired man slapped his cheeks to come back to his senses. The ramen could wait. Touching the sword, it appeared in electric blue rays, and Naruto disappeared from the area. Suddenly Naruto appeared in front of a yellow tent where some voices were heard inside. Without waiting for the remaining 2 minutes to end, I entered the tent and saw 2 drunken men who weren't in the best of shape. You made my job easier, he said, approaching both men and without hesitation, lowering his sword. A scream was heard alerting all the bandits who entered their leader's tent, to find a man headless and the other bleeding heavily from the neck, while blood spurted from a gigantic cut. What the hell happened here? I didn't realize the cut wasn't strong enough, so I cut off his head completely, Naruto said, wiping the sword with a t-shirt that was on a piece of furniture nearby. You! I'm going to kill you! The main guard shouted as he threw himself at Naruto. Without even trying, I cut off his head in an instant, and ended up cutting the carp in 2. Now use more force than necessary, I whispered, looking at the blood falling around him. Seeing what he did, the bandit launched himself at Naruto, kicking him in the face and then cutting him in the chest. Without giving him a break, he filled his sword with fire and launched himself at the guards, who retreated and went outside. From the carp that was still falling in slow motion for them. Naruto, do you think you can stop me? There are only 9 of them, their other companions have died, it will be no different with you, he said with a serious face. Making the bandits nervous, they looked at each other, noticing the number of their troops, which was not even a quarter of what it was before. How did you do it, damn it? It's easy, really. They're careless and very lazy and very greedy, and I already said careless, right? One of the bandits got angry at the mockery of them. A boy under 14 was simply making fun of them. That was humiliating. I don't have time, so I'll finish my work. I have some exams to complete, he said, gripping his sword tightly. Accelerating towards the bandits, he crossed them and ended up behind them, who did not even react to his movements cut in flames. Naruto swung the fire sword, which ended up consuming the bandits in an instant due to its high temperatures. A beep alerted Naruto as a system window opened. Mission complete. Reward, 265 user points. Naruto smiled. That was just in time, he thought, considering he only had 12 minutes left. Good. Take me. I have to wash the sword. Along with his words, a blue glow appeared and consumed him, taking him with it. Upon arriving at the Chunin exam tower, he appeared in the same place he had been standing. The system appeared in front of him, giving him the 265 points it had promised. And what are they good for besides my stats? System: user points allow the player to. How to use them? Manually increasing stats. Stats increase when the user exercises, completes missions, and defeats enemies. However, this can also be done manually by sacrificing user points. Purchase mystery boxes of different levels. In these boxes, you can win anything of the same level as the box, from weapons, techniques, or outfits and accessories that artificially increase your staff. Spin the Wheel of Fortune. This wheel takes the entire store and puts it into a game of chance where anyone can be chosen. Item purchase. Allows you to purchase an item, but without knowing which technique that item will be released. It has a small amount of randomness and is cheaper than its next, most specific form. Buying a specific skill. Buying a skill specifically is an expensive way to gain what's inside, as you don't sacrifice anything. Note: the second method is usually more expensive than the first, due to the sacrifice the first method makes by leaving something to chance. However, the first method is more expensive than the third method, and since everything at any level is random, it can give you more or less for something of a higher or lower level. Naruto thought, could he distribute everything in a way where he could get a little bit of everything without giving too much to any one area? Well, we could use 100 on my qualities and the others 55 for each part. Naruto, open profile. The order was heard, causing a hologram to appear showing a general description of Naruto along with numbers of his base qualities and other things that don't matter as much as his qualities. Appearance. Profile. Name: Naruto Uzumaki. Occupation: Shinobi. Title: Leaf Village's number 1 dumb-headed ninja. Level 1. Fatigue 1. HP/life 200/200. AM/energy 354/400. Luck 96. Physical appearance. Strength 26. Speed 20. Agility 14. Reaction 24. Sentiso 18. IQ/intelligence 120. IQ in battle 170. Skills: Taijutsu 9. Ninjutsu 2. Genjutsu 1. Kenjutsu 8. Bukujutsu 1. Fuinjutsu 0. Kenjutsu 2. Bojutsu 1. Iron Ninjutsu 1. Nintaijutsu 6. Naruto, I should change that title. He thought with a drop of sweat when he saw what his official title was. At least only 2 hidden villages knew about it. If everyone knew, it would be impossible to remove him from his profile. That aside, I noticed his skills were mediocre. He had decent speed and strength, but if his taijutsu was a 9, I didn't know what the base number for taijutsu was, but I knew that 9 wasn't it. Okay, I'll give 15 points to my strength, 20 to my agility, 20 to my speed, 15 to my senses, 20 to my IQ, and 10 to my battle IQ. I finished by making each point increase its corresponding number, ending in Strength 41, Agility 34, Speed 40, Senses 33, IQ 140 and IQ in battle 180. Okay, now to the store. The screen changed to the store screen showing. It had a shape of chests below, and when he touched it, it showed him 5 chests of different levels, each level being a ninja rank from 1S to 5D. Then there was a compartment on one side shaped like a roulette wheel, clearly the location of the universal roulette wheel. Below again, and on the side of the chest, was the design of a card that Naruto touched. Being sent to a card game, there were 5 cards at the top: 1 red, 1 blue, 1 green, 1 brown, and 1 yellow, symbolizing the 5 natural elements. And below were 5 more, to be precise. They were all multicolored, with several colors running through the cards, making it clear that they were the most special. These must be the ones with the best, I suppose. Naruto touched the wheel, interested in what it might offer. And shockingly, Naruto disappeared from where he was. He ended up in what appeared to be a starry sky, but without the planet or anything nearby. With the infinite stars of the universe in front of the blonde, without the earth to lose the beautiful view. Whistle. This is what I call universal roulette, he said, smiling at the sight of literally being in a new cosmos. It wasn't outer space or anything, it was a completely different place, and that was obvious from what he sensed in the surroundings. They were under the control of the system. This place belongs to the system. How powerful is that thing? He thought, taking a second to consider that. He quickly became distracted by the words in front of him. System. Universal roulette works with odds, making the possibilities random, as everything is mixed with each spin. But one way to decrease or increase the difficulty of spins is by increasing or decreasing the amount of money awarded per spin. Note, depending on the spin price, there is a higher chance of having rank 1 skills. But it is never a sure thing. Okay, a spin for 10 points this time. With that, he pressed a button, causing the wheel to spin until it landed on minus 20% more chakra? It helps. Well, he already has plenty of chakra, but more won't hurt. Besides, 20% is a considerable amount considering his already abysmal reserves, which only increased upon awakening. Nah. Who cares? Thinking about it won't get me my spin back. The boy dismissed his inner thoughts as boring. And he spun the wheel again, and after a few seconds it landed on an item. Jackets with 14% damage absorption? Naruto thought for a moment, but smiled. It works, he said, as the object disappeared from his sight. Perhaps he'll find it in his storage. Naruto, next turn. Once again the roulette wheel made its sound as it started, and the floating Naruto waited for the answer to his winning item. Monarch's ability, Dominant Hand. Naruto looked at the skill with interest and surprise, feeling it at just hearing the title. What's it for? He asked, receiving a response from the system, which displayed a hologram with the description. Monarch ability, Dominant Hand. Description: it has the ability to grant the wielder the power to generate an invisible, range-limited touch, allowing them to attract or move objects without actually touching them. It also allows atmospheric and gravitational pressure to be increased on someone, making them heavier or lighter. Naruto was surprised and smiled. A spin of 10 gave him this? What were the chances of this happening? Either luck is on his side, or this is being generous to him for his first spins. Wow, if that gave me this twist, I can imagine the others. With that, he touched the spin button, starting the roulette wheel, which made its sound again until the reward of 10 more points appeared, but it didn't interest him. Another one, he said before spinning again, taking off some shinobi sandals with a speed boost of 3, which isn't a big deal. This one was woken up and possibly sent to storage. Okay, last turn, but 15 points this time. The Uzumaki System, Chapter 3. System: weapon obtained, Assorted Hunter's Sansatsuken. Naruto looked at the weapon, debating whether to look at its description, but decided to let it go this time. He didn't have much time to continue with anything else. Naruto switched to the chest, where the 5-level chests were divided by pressure and rank. Rank 1, S, costs 300 user points. Rank 2, A, costs 200 character points. Rank 3, B, costs 150 character points. Rank 4, C, costs 50, and Rank 5, D, costs 25. Naruto thought, but shrugged and decided going for 2 mid-level ones was the best decision. It was a high enough level to compete in this exam, and at the same time, it was a good amount. And giving, he received. Protective Necklace, Jewel of the Mind. When the box was opened, it revealed a black thread necklace with a purple stone that interested Naruto without knowing why. What is it for? I named it, Necklace of the Mind. Rank 4. Weapon description: a purple necklace with a leather cord tied to a crystal that has a faint glow. The stone is straight and rectangular, shaped like a pentagram. Skills. Passives. Mental protection: Yoji gives the ability to confront and protect the user's mind against illusions, hypnosis, trance, dream manipulation, reason manipulation, perspective manipulation, emotional control, mind control, memory control, etc. Mastery: more possibility of mental skills and over perspective. Active. None, the weapon's range is not sufficient to have its own abilities independent of the user. Luck: 75% luck bonus against body and mind possession. Limits: weapon protection does not work against range 1 and 2 techniques. Specialty: none, the weapon's range is not sufficient to have a specialty independent of the user. Value: 25 million ryo. Naruto: it's a good acquisition. He wasn't good at genjutsu per se, so removing that weakness was great. But did genjutsu even have levels? That was a surprise to him. Second chest. The second chest appeared and opened, revealing the next reward. Lightning Release, Wave of Inspiration. Description: the black-haired man asked. System: Lightning Release, Wave of Inspiration. Description: the lightning nature ability is an ability that creates a large amount of voltage. However, it is used by being passed from the user to the enemy through a contact or conductive material. Dash. Like every lightning element ability. What does that mean? The boy was cut off when he heard footsteps, and turning his head, he could see the young men entering along with the sensei, high-ranking officers, Hokage, and exam administrators. Looks like time's up. The boy walked towards his team, lining up right behind Sakura. Is everything okay with him? She asked, seeing her friend, who didn't seem to be as attached to her teammate as she had been before. And well, her team had a bit of an imbalance after the battle and humiliating fight Sasuke had with Rock Lee. Sakura, yes, it's just that it's been darker than usual. Naruto turned to look at his partner, who wouldn't leave his neck alone. He didn't know what that thing did, but it must be annoying for his partner to be bothering him so much. Okay, get into position, form lines of 3 for each team, said the test administrator. Everyone said he looked like a zombie, with his dark circles under his eyes. His constant coughing made many wonder if he might die during the presentation. Announcer, the fights will be decided randomly on this screen. If it's not your turn, go up to the stands until it's your turn. If you're chosen, stay in your spot. With that said, let's begin. The shout to make the screen begin to display the participants in rapid succession until it lands on Sasuke Uchiha vs Yoro Akato. If you're not one of the aforementioned, take to the stands. Naruto, good luck, he said to his companion as they started walking, leaving the black-haired boy standing in front of the boy with his face covered, whose smile felt strange even with that blanket on. Summary: we've all seen this 1,000 times and no one would like to waste time on it, so I'll summarize it. The fight was intense in many areas, but the Uchiha managed to achieve victory, although it was by a small margin. The chakra absorption technique was a major problem for the Uchiha, who, without the ability to use chakra in any type of skill, had to fight hand-to-hand, which was a disadvantage. But he managed to win by using a combo that he copied against Lee, or at least a little bit of the combo he managed to see. Which made the Uzumaki wonder, what was the full combo like? Was it aesthetic or useful to hide in the shadows of his opponent in the air? And also, in the second match, the Harem boy faced Saku, who had a high difficulty due to having broken arms. Later, he revealed that his arms were fine, but he still ended up losing because Shino had put an insect inside Saku's arms. And because he was so foolish and arrogant, he simply blew his arms off. And Naruto could tell he'd lost movement in both limbs now, if the completely visible fragments that emerged from the holes were any indication. The third fight was between the cat-suited boy named Kankuro against an older Konoha man who can stretch like jelly. He managed to put the cat-suited boy in check, although it was later revealed that he was just a puppet and the real one was the horrible band thing that was always on his back. At least he has a justification for that thing on his back, I reasoned comfortably. The boy. In the next battle, Tenten of Konoha faced off against the blonde from the sand village named Tamario. She easily swept the floor with Tenten. The girl Tenten is a pro with weapons, but unfortunately for her, Tamario had her worst weakness: wind techniques that make their attacks useless, thus losing. Then came what, for him and the entire room, was the worst fight in history. Sakura vs Ino, both girls fighting over their partner Sasuke, with some questions about true love or destiny. And 1,000 other stupid things that no one cared about. But when they left the words of love, things were worse. Their fight did not go beyond the average genin level. The next era. Naruto Uzumaki vs Kiba Inuzuka. Look, Akamaru, it's finally our turn. The boy named Kiba Inuzuka shouted happily, as he jumped off the bar with his dog. This boy, a member of Konoha's Inuzuka family, was a boy over 13 years old, with a furry hooded coat and a fawn mark on each cheek of his face. While the boy waited for his opponent, Naruto began to walk down the stairs, his gaze seemingly lost in the distance of the immeasurable sky. Oh, will I feel bad if I do it? The boy thought, while Naruto looked at the screen, invisible to everyone else, in front of his face. The screen had a few words for him. Alert! Mission: win the fight quickly. Rank 4. Description: win your battle against Kiba Inuzuka and his dog combat partner, Akamaru, quickly. The battle must be completed within 10 minutes maximum, counting from the first blow thrown by either side. Reward: 70 character points. Limitations: do not suffer great damage, do not lose more than 50 HP/life, and do not lose more than 50% of chakra. Note: if you lose or don't defeat him within the time limit, you will die from heart failure. Naruto looked at the screen. Between me and Kiba, if necessary. He'll be the one to die, he whispered as he stood in front of the Inuzuka boy and placed a hand behind his back. And taking this as a preparation, the presenter spoke. Ready? Begin! Okay. Let's get started. Arrest. Note: for those who remember, the second chapter ended here, but since I'm revamping it, the entire story itself, the changes make the entire story longer, so it ends with the end of the previous chapter and begins this one. I'm clarifying this in case there are any continuity errors. End. Continuation. Okay. Let's get started. Looking at Kiba seriously, Naruto opened his inventory in front of him. And with a thought, he summoned one of the weapons into his back hand in an electric blue glow that no one else noticed, luckily for him. Displaying the weapon, which was Sansatsuken, Naruto swept it around him with mastery. He paused in a calm position, opening his hand, allowing one of the sections of the weapon to fall free. What do you think you're doing, idiot? Naruto rolled his eyes. You know what a kata is, right? He asked, placing the Sansatsuken on his shoulders with a blank stare. Or don't tell me you're so stupid you don't even know that? Kiba frowned. Of course I know what a tasting is, you idiot! Naruto smiled and dismissed Kiba's mocking words, angering him. With a forced smile and a tick, he spoke. I'm going to crush you. Let's see who laughs last. Come on, Akamaru, Fang over Fang. Kiba began to spin counterclockwise, and opposite to Kiba, Akamaru spun opposite Kiba, forming two tornadoes between himself that launched themselves at the Uzumaki. The tornado fell upon Naruto, who looked at them seriously, moving one foot to the side. Both of them fell, causing a great tremor throughout the tower and causing a cloud of dust to rise. Kurenai, it's finished. The Jounin's words from the stands caught the attention of several others nearby. How are you so sure? Asked a blonde girl named Yamanaka, looking at the new Jounin. In response, he smiled. The Inuzuka's taijutsu is among the best in the Leaf Village, he explained, crossing his arms with mockery in his voice. They're only surpassed by the Akimichi and Hyuga, to put it simply. It's impossible to survive their blows with such a low level, he said, worrying some of the former blonde's friends a little. It seems your student won't make it past this stage, Kakashi. The Jounin mocked a gray-haired man reading a book, which turned his gaze to the training camp. When the smoke cleared, Naruto could be seen unharmed, while Kiba was a few feet away. And next to him, his dog Akamaru had transformed into a copy of Kiba. I'm sure he'll attack him head-on, the Inuzuka thought, surprised because he never saw Naruto move during his outburst. Ino failed. She sighed with relief that she didn't even know she had. At her side, Sakura did the same, although she then looked at Ino with doubt. She would have said something if she hadn't missed the battle. No. Something else happened, said a man named Asuma Saratobi. He had a cigarette in his mouth, while looking at the battlefield. Naruto, you are very slow, Kiba. Kiba spun to the side to face Naruto. He was hit by the Sansatsuken, sending him flying. Seeing the attack on his teammate, Akamaru began to spin, forcing Naruto to jump toward the ceiling. Staying attached to it, he looked down at the crater where his first attack had formed. The dog was in a mini crater within a crater. That was fast. His attacks are fast. If I'm not fully aware of them, he'll hit me. Naruto stopped and jumped again, when Kiba instantly collided with the ceiling. Naruto ended up on the railing, bending the metal object even as he braced himself against chakra. What are you doing, idiot? Ino shouted in surprise. She saw how the boy appeared next to her without her having seen him. She barely felt the great amount of wind generated by his brakes at her side. Naruto, sorry I didn't notice you, he said, looking at the girl. Then he smiled with a drop of sweat on his side. Well, I'm going. You better move a little. Ino was confused as Naruto jumped again, generating another gust of wind. But at that moment, she was caught by her sensei as the tornado that was Akamaru collided with Naruto's area, destroying the area of the stands. Suddenly Naruto appeared next to Kiba, who hit him hard with his Sansetssuken, causing him to fly against the wall, and in an instant, Naruto appeared in front of Kiba on the wall. He aimed to drive one of the Sansetssuken's points into the wall, but Kiba managed to move to the side, allowing the weapon to create a gap in the wall. Kiba had to move again, however, as the second point was driven into the wall where Kiba had been before, creating another gap. And instantly he had to roll on the ground as Naruto tried to kick Kiba. The result was a large, spiderweb-shaped crack, and the thousands of tons behind the wall shook along with the castle. Behind, Naruto had to place his hands in an X, when he was assaulted by Akamaru, crashing into an even deeper crater. And in an instant, Naruto was once again hit by Kiba, creating an even larger crater. Lightning element, wave of inspiration. A bolt of lightning flooded the room. A massive charge slammed into the two Kibas beside him, knocking them both to the ground as they couldn't bear the weight. One of the Kibas exploded into white smoke, revealing Akamaru the dog. Naruto emerged from the crater, grabbing his weapon, which he dropped to block the dog in the first place. Strange, it didn't hurt as much as I thought. Without giving it any importance, Naruto looked at Kiba, who was on the floor, defeated. Although he tried to stand up, he couldn't do anything because of the pain in his body. "I win this one," he said, while giving one last kick that finally knocked the boy out. And this was confirmed a second later. Announcer: the winner is Uzumaki Naruto. Before the announcer could finish his announcement, Naruto charged up the stairs, trying to reach his team. Or so he planned, as he was stopped by the Jounin Kurenai and Asuma. "Hello, may I know what you want?" "Kurenai, you were going to kill him." "Naruto, because the question," he said curiously. The question was somewhat silly since in this exam killing was allowed according to what the announcer said. "Asuma, don't be funny, boy." Naruto rolled his eyes. "Instead of starting an argument with me, though," he sighed. "Whatever you say," he said, continuing on his way. Until the bearded Jounin stood in that place, blocking the Uzumaki's path once again, who was already starting to get annoyed by the interruptions. "Asuma, answer the question, boy." "Naruto, the question is too stupid to answer. Killing was allowed in this exam, so asking something like that isn't the smartest thing to do. Whether I wanted to or not is my problem, and nothing stops me from wanting to or not doing it." "Kurenai, he's your friend, you can't." "What does that make you know?" I asked, turning my head. "Just because we've been classmates since college doesn't mean we're friends," he said, his voice serious and lacking enthusiasm. "If that's all you wanted to know, let me in," he finished, looking at Asuma, his eyes glowing blue with a faint purple tinge emerging like embers from the flames. With nothing else to do, the Jounin stepped aside, letting the boy cross, continuing on his way with a frown. He already lost his good mood of the day, and that only made him even angrier, until a girl with blue hair and white eyes stood in the road in embarrassment. "Hello, Naruto-kun, yo-yo?" She couldn't finish as the Uzumaki walked past her without even stopping to consider her words. The entire room fell into an awkward silence at what had just happened. While the Uzumaki reached his starting position next to Sakura and Kakashi, and next to Sakura Ino. "Naruto, because—" Sakura whispered, looking worriedly at her partner. He and Sasuke weren't the same after this exam. Naruto had changed a lot, and that worried her deeply. What that meant between them. Their relationship as a team was terrible as the second phase of the exam began. But now it was completely shit. Slowly and steadily falling apart, in just 5 days. All the months of our relationship had fallen apart in 5 days. "Naruto, I'm not in the mood today, Sakura." His dry words paralyzed the girl. "Ino. Hey, you shouldn't have been so hard on her," she whispered to the boy, who stopped looking at Sakura. She really wasn't in the mood. Her afternoon was already ruined. "I'm just telling the truth. I'm not in the mood for arguments, much less shouting," I whisper, looking straight ahead, his face serious. "I know, but a simple not right now would have sufficed." Ino said, looking at her former friend, who might already be her friend again. They haven't clarified that yet. But maybe they are friends, their interactions said so. No. Naruto looked away. Perhaps his reaction really wasn't the best. But his anger at this was what Hinata and Kiba's sensei tried to do. It angered him so much that he simply didn't react properly. Perhaps unconsciously she did it because she was his student, she didn't know it, and she didn't care. To break the deadly silence, the Hokage gave a light cough into his fist, causing the announcer to regain consciousness to continue with the semi-finals of the exam. Good. Continuing with the exam, the next battle is... The screen began to spin until it landed on two people in particular. Neji Hyuga versus Hinata Hyuga. The last name confused some in the room, who were unaware of the two Hyuga's blood relationship. Neji, it seems my destiny was to advance to the finals, he said with an arrogant tone, walking down the stairs while the other Hyuga didn't seem to have the spirit to fight. And Naruto, who saw this, looked away feeling guilty about it. Although when he saw that the system gave him a panel that said he gained 5 player points in strength and speed for defeating Kiba, he removed that guilt. The Uzumaki System, Chapter 4. Naruto, what a waste of time. The boy sighed in his mind. The fight was so one-sided that it simply had no excitement beyond the tense moment when Neji punched the girl in the heart. The girl never threw a killing blow, only blocking and attacking with her hands. He wasn't an expert on Hyuga Hyuken, but he did know something. In the chest, specifically the center of the stomach, was the main chakra point where the energy called chakra is formed by the fusion of mental and physical energies. And when it comes to organs, the heart is the second most important. And the girl never made the slightest attempt to attack it. No matter how hard she tries, if she's not willing to kill, she'll never win. It's a basic rule of the ninja world that the Hyuga hasn't learned, and one day it will cost her her life. Well, it's not like I'm dedicated to killing. He shrugged. That's none of his business, so he'll just leave his words as subjective opinions, whatever that means. Naruto, who's left? He asked himself, looking for those who hadn't participated. For a little hope he could see that 3 could still put on a good show. The remaining 4 are Choji Akimichi, Dozu Akado, Gaara no Sabaku, and Rock Lee. Along with Gaara, he was definitely their best option. Although Dozu was strong, his sonic technique wouldn't work on Rock Lee, since the boy has proven to be fast enough to dodge Dozu's ability, which is very sonic. And with Gaara, she doesn't know why, but he gives her the feeling that he is indeed strong. That feeling was too strong to simply ignore. Announcer, next fight. The screen began to spin, drawing everyone's attention. It ended with the result, which Naruto didn't want. Sabaku no Gaara versus Dozu Kinyuta, he said, causing the bandaged boy to curse his luck at fighting the biggest psychopath of this exam. Naruto, he's going to give up. He sighed, seeing that the boy was terrified and obviously wouldn't fight, but he wouldn't judge him. No one would be willing to die if they could avoid it. The ninja world isn't just about killing, it's about surviving to kill more another day. There are no cowards here who retreat. There are only intelligent people who decide not to die in vain. There are only survivors. Dozu, I give up, he said nervously, causing many to groan and others to sigh. With that, everything continued until the battle of the last 2, which was Choji versus Lee, and with obvious reasons, the winner was Rock Lee, who in less than 5 minutes destroyed Choji, who never had a chance. A kick pinned him to the wall, leaving only his head sticking out, and the fat man couldn't move. Although he remained conscious and didn't seem to have any real injuries, that was more than he expected. Naruto left his thoughts at the call of the Hokage with his typical fake cough. Hokage, don't you wonder why allied villages take this exam? Naruto fanned a question mark on his forehead. How did he expect her to know that? He only found out about the exam a few weeks ago. Sakura, to rise in rank? I asked, raising my hand. Hiruzen, not exactly. The villages hold this exam as a way to replace the wars that took place in the past. With that, the cat-suited boy from the sand village named Kankuro spoke indignantly. Then we're just tools for your stupid game. His anger was evident in his voice. Before he could resolve the misinterpretation, Naruto raised his hand, causing the Hokage to sigh. He knew the boy would make a fuss about being treated like a tool. Hiruzen, yes, he said, pointing at Naruto, who lowered his hand to speak. Naruto, can we go now? He asked, his stomach growling in a low voice, which no one noticed, although the boy's face showed his hunger for a few brief seconds. Kankuro, some of us do care about being treated as mere sacrificial tools. Do you care about yourself as a tool but not as a weapon? Naruto rolled his eyes. A weapon was a tool. And ninja were just that, weapons of a village. So really, either the boy was just arguing or he couldn't tell the difference between analogies, whatever analogy means. Seeing that the situation wasn't the best, he decided to fake cough into his hand for the third time, turning his attention back to himself and letting the Uzumaki know he didn't care about everyone's stares for calling them weapons. How annoying! Naruto looked at Shikamaru at his side and smiled at the way he told him he was being stubbornly annoying, as he always was. Hiruzen, good. Continuing with the exam. Take a piece of paper from this box. I speak, introducing a purple-haired girl with a pineapple-shaped bun and a revealing, very revealing, outfit, holding a wooden box with a hole in the top. This was Anko, the host and supervisor of the second phase of the exams in the Forest of Death. Slowly the adult walked in front of the winners until she reached Naruto, who took the paper with his calm face while the girl smiled at him. I never thought I'd see you as an emo, said the girl with a sadistic face next to Naruto, who just smiled calmly. Don't worry. Naruto Uzumaki will always be here, no matter what his appearance is, he said, eliciting the same smile from the girl, but this time more seductively. This made the boy nervous, although he didn't show it. I'll check that later, she whispered in the boy's ear, who understood what she meant by later, although it caused a blush. She vanished when she heard the girl's laughter as she pulled out her lens. Crazy old woman, she whispered, looking at the purple-haired girl who continued on her way. Good. State your number from left to right, he said, prompting a man with a bandage on his head to pull out a whiteboard where he would write down the numbers. Niji 3. Reed 9. Shino 1. Temari 2. Kankuro 6. Shikamaru 5. Sasuke 4. Naruto 8. Gaara 7. Hiruzen, good. The battles ended like this. First fight, Shino vs Temari. Second fight, Sasuke vs Niji. Third fight, Shikamaru vs Kankuro. Last fight, Naruto vs Gaara. Hiruzen, Rock Lee will be leaving it for last against any opponent who wants to fight him. If not, someone will be put in to fight in the next round. He finished looking at the young people who seemed to be analyzing who was his turn. Naruto. So, shall we go now? He asked, feeling hunger strike again. He needed some quick instant ramen. He'd been so excited about the system that he'd forgotten to eat. Hiruzen, yes. The finals will be in a month. Your sensei will direct you to where it will take place. Without wasting time, Naruto began to walk towards the greeting without waiting for the Hokage to finish, because for him that would be of no use. He was dying of hunger, and that was enough to ignore everyone. Naruto simply ran through Konoha at top speed, and entered through its always open window. And without waiting a second, he put hot water on the stove. He looked at his hand, pretending to check the time, and in 2 more minutes, the water boiled, and Silvio placed it in the instant ramen package, which he sealed for a minute before eating. After the first bite, Naruto sighed heavily. I'd forgotten how delicious you were, he said, staring into the bowl of ramen with stars in his eyes. During his 5 days in the forest, he only ate whales and fish for 3 days. He didn't eat anything for the next 2 days due to the events. The boy continued eating until a notification stopped him. Mission completed. Reward, 70 user points. Naruto, with noodles in his mouth, looked at the screen in surprise. I'd forgotten about you, he said, looking at the number of points. He thought about earning something later for said points, or maybe he should save points for higher level things. They both liked the truth. Naruto closed the window and continued eating, ignoring everything else. He just kept eating until he finished. He had been really hungry. Although he was surprised that a single bowl was enough to satisfy his hunger, he didn't complain. The boy lay down on his bed. He could sleep for a few minutes. It was only afternoon, but maybe sleeping for a few minutes wouldn't hurt. No, he wouldn't, he supposed. The next day, Naruto could be seen in the Konoha hospital, coming to visit Kin, who was knocked unconscious after the fight with Shikamaru, which caused her to crash heavily into the wall. Oddly enough, the nurse had told him the girl hadn't woken up, but since he didn't believe her, he decided to sneak out through a second-floor window. It was easy since the woman wasn't a shinobi, and the Anbu who should have been here weren't there, perhaps watching over Sasuke. Whoever attacked them before surely had something to do with Sasuke. Naruto. This isn't normal, he said, seeing that there was no one around. Everything had a deafening and gloomy silence that didn't give him a good vibe. Even the third knew that leaving all the Anbu watching the Uchiha was totally idiotic, and if there were none in a place like the hospital, which was one of the most valuable places because it was where they had the best doctors, other places of average importance must be equally or more vulnerable to enemy attack. And that was bad considering what the Chunin exams meant. Being attacked right now, besides being the perfect moment, would make them look very weak. And something like that wasn't good financially, or so he assumed. Since when did I know so much? Naruto left all that aside to continue towards the girl's room. Upon arriving, Naruto heard a muffled scream while another person was talking. To avoid alarming anyone, Naruto pressed himself against the wall and poked his head out slightly to see what had happened inside the room. And as he focused his gaze, he could see the silver-haired boy who had helped them at the beginning of the exam had his hand on Kin's mouth, and in the other hand, he was holding a paper with a dream that had the kanji for dream. Surrounding him were 4 doctors and a nurse, all of them looking dead from very fine cuts on their necks and others in strategic places, all except one, the Anbu. Kabuto, It'll be quick, the silver-haired man whispered, aiming to put the paper with the dream Naji. Before he could put the paper, Naruto jumped and kicked Kabuto hard, sending the boy against the wall, letting Kin breathe, who took a deep breath. "Now Naruto?" the girl asked with cloudy vision because a few seconds ago she was about to be suffocated. "Himself," he said, looking at Kabuto, who seemed very unharmed after receiving that kick to the face. Clearly, the boy wasn't what he showed them at the beginning of the Chunin exam. "What did you intend to do to him?" "Kabuto, that's none of your business, Uzumaki. Step aside, so I can do my job," he said, adjusting his glasses with a smile that made Naruto uncomfortable. This boy didn't seem to be a genin at all. Even worse is that he repeated the exam 7 times but never died. How could he never have noticed such inconsistencies? He used to think the exams were simple, but after experiencing what he'd experienced, he knew that being lucky enough to survive to the end of these was already a big deal. 7 times in a row just wasn't logical. "Naruto, I repeat, what did you want to do to him?" he asked again, his eyes glowing dark blue. He was growing impatient with the silver-haired man, who must be some kind of traitor. This kidnapping itself was already illegal and involved years in prison. The lives it took only added to their worth. "Kabuto, if you want answers, why don't you look for them yourself?" he said to take a scalpel from his kunai holder. He launched himself at Naruto, who did the same, but strangely in Kabuto, his body felt like that of a doll without a wind-up, surprising Naruto for a few moments. While one of the dead bodies, his Anbu to be precise, jumped out the window, breaking it in the process. Naruto headed toward the window where the Anbu removed a brown wig and mask, revealing Kabuto's hair, who smirked at him for being able to escape. "That son of a hitch!" he growled, practically yelled at Naruto in anger for being so naive. Clearly an Anbu falling without wounds was illogical. They can't be knocked unconscious, so it was obvious that he had to die no matter what. To avoid the same thing, I checked the pulse of all the doctors and Kabuto's fake body, and sure enough, they were all dead, and you could tell they had been dead for a few minutes. "System. Can you tell me what happened here?" A screen opened and something appeared, making him sigh. "I don't have access to that technique until the user's level is lower. Level up and unlock skills." When I told you about unlocking skills, Naruto thought with a tick, the system quickly took their conversation out of context. "Are you okay?" he said, looking at Kin, who was still in the hospital bed. "Kin, yes. I was just short of breath," she replied, sitting on the stretcher. "Naruto, do you know who he is?" "Kin, something like that. His name is Kabuto Yakushi. He's the right-hand man of the leader of the Sound Village, Orochimaru." "Naruto. Wait. Orochimaru rules your village?" The girl nodded at the question. "That place must be hell to live in." "Kin, yes, there, everyone is their own man. No one matters beyond those Orochimaru chooses to have his mark. The rest are just experiments for the future or a way to make money." "Naruto, I feel sorry for you." "It doesn't matter. I'm used to it, and I'm even gaining respect, or at least that's how it was supposed to be," I finished, dejected. The attempt, whatever Kabuto attempted, it's easy to think she's no longer useful. That leaves her as someone expelled. All the respect she'd earned as one of the genin chosen for the exams would fall, and now, she had nothing. Before I could ask, Kin started speaking. "Orochimaru promised us that if we killed Sasuke, he would give us his most powerful mark and we would become part of his elite group called the Sound Ninja." "Naruto, if what I saw is true, he wasn't going to keep his promise even if they managed to kill him. I doubt he even had faith that they would kill him." "Kin, why do you say that?" I asked, looking at the boy who shrank. "Naruto, when he marked the subject, he gave me a strange seal. He said strange things I barely heard because I was so sleepy. But he talked about sending a test and experiment people for Sasuke, then you guys came and well." Naruto cut to look at the surprised Kin, who lowered her head sadly. When she thought she was chosen for her potential to be a great kunoichi, now she knew that it was only going to be a type of experiment for the Uchiha to test the power that Orochimaru had given her. "Don't be sad. Look on the bright side, you won't be going back to that shitty place now." "Kin, I have nowhere else to go, where am I supposed to go then?" she said, still crying, looking at Naruto, who smiled at her. She didn't like being so vulnerable for someone else, but it was impossible to avoid. "With me, you can stay with me." His words surprised the girl, but his smile and kind face made her blush to a level she'd never seen before. She'd never been interested in a relationship because her main goal was to make herself known in the Sound Village and not be treated as lesser, but now that she wasn't surrounded by people who looked down on her, she could say that being accepted felt good. "Kin, are you sure? Konoha will accept a kunoichi from the village founded by its greatest traitor to join its ranks." "You're not joining Konoha, you're joining me. Besides, the third Hokage isn't in a position to tell me no right now," he whispered in a slightly angry tone. Flashback. "Naruto, hey Kyubi, did you know my parents?" Naruto asked, looking at the sewer around him. He had been silent for a few minutes, having woken up here in his sleep and not wanting to wake the Kyubi. But his curiosity about what the fox had said earlier made him want to know. Why such a stupid question? Naruto was surprised to find an answer. He expected an attack or to be completely ignored. "Naruto, well, as you said, you were in my mother before I was born, and the fourth Hokage sealed you in me. But shouldn't he have asked my father's permission for that too?" He asked because it was logical for him. If the fourth Hokage sealed him in him, he should have asked one of his parents. "I can tell you your mother's name in the meantime. I'll tell you your father's if you do something for me," he said, wanting to get something good out of this. The boy wanted to know about his parents, and he wanted to be more comfortable in this stupid sewer. "Whatever," Naruto said, looking at the Kyubi with eyes of hope to know who his parents are. It had been his wish for years, perhaps the only wish that still prevails from what he had before. Several were destroyed over the years. "Kyubi, your mother's name was Kushina Uzumaki. I'll tell you about your father when you change this place for." He couldn't finish when the place changed to a green meadow. It had nothing but the sun and endless land in the distance, but for the Kyubi that would be enough for now. "Sorry for being so short, I was just in a hurry," he said, scratching his head. "It doesn't matter." The fox sighed, planning to attack the boy when the spot changed. But apparently the brat knew what was best for him and left the bars in front of him. though now they didn't have the same walls they had before and stretched out into infinity alongside the meadow. Your father's name is. End of flashback. Naruto, yeah? He's in no position to deny anything. I whispered as I walked down the exit hallway. To throw a kunai at the nurse at the counter. If everyone was dead and she was the only one alive and she told him that Kin wasn't awake, she must be a traitor or a corpse that was given life for a few minutes, he said, feeling the woman's pulse. The corpse seemed to have been in that state for about an hour, and its skin had turned a deathly pale after receiving the kunai to the head. A technique that controls people like puppets, although it seems more like temporarily giving life. Or pretending to give life. He's heard of genjutsu, which uses the last 8 hours of a body's life to harness the corpse's final brain activity. Kin, this is similar to the other body that Kabuto used in the room, she said, looking at the corpse. The girl already had her Sound Village uniform, everything except her ninja headband. Since she didn't do any more outside of the village, she shouldn't have worn it. Naruto, let's tell the third about this. I doubt anyone will come here in the next 5 hours, especially since this second floor has been almost uninhabited for the past few days, he said before jumping out a window, followed by the girl who landed softly next to him. They both jumped from roof to roof, arriving at the Hokage Tower in a few minutes. Without listening to the secretary who told him to stop for some kind of meeting, Naruto continued toward the Hokage's office, not wanting to interrupt the lady's work. But he wasn't in the mood to stop now. Kin just threw a sanban at the woman who stopped dead in her tracks when the sanban came close to her head. And Kin's gaze clearly spoke of death warnings. Although Naruto gave a silent denial to the girl to stop her from doing anything. Naruto, upon reaching the Hokage's door, entered without further ado, along with Kin, who stood next to Naruto and bowed to the Hokage. Oh, I just sent for you. We need to talk about your sudden change. Naruto, if you're going to ask what happened to me, I'll tell you in advance that I don't know. It was all sudden and surprising. And no, the Kyuubi has nothing to do with my change. He lied halfway. He didn't know why, and the Kyuubi had nothing to do with it, or so he assumed from their interactions. But I did know what happened to him, although I didn't have to say it. Okay, the Hokage agreed. I didn't believe what he said, but it was better to leave the subject until I'd investigated the boy. That way, he wouldn't suspect I was going to investigate the whole thing. But we still need to check the seal. It may have weakened after your transformation. And for that, I summoned Jiraiya a Sannin, he said, as a white-haired man in red and green robes appeared in a swirl of leaves, along with 2 lines under his eyes and a large scroll on his back. Here I present to you Jiraiya, Sannin of the Toads, one of my students and dash. Naruto, I don't care what he is, just let me finish so I can go, he replied, uninterested in who the man was. The less time he spends in the third's presence, the more peace he'll have for himself. Kabuto Yakushi attacked the hospital and killed all the staff on the 2nd floor. The third didn't flinch and just puffed smoke from his pipe. Yes, I was already informed by Kakashi about that. Although we didn't know about the 2nd floor, it seems he wanted to kill Sasuke, and not even the Anbu could stop him. Naruto, that was just a distraction to draw attention and decimate the hospital's surveillance faster without endangering its true objective apparently. Which, by the way, was Kin here, he said, pointing to the black-haired girl who was still with that defiant face of hers. He thought the look she'd given before would be permanent, but maybe she'd still be the tough girl she always was. That wasn't his problem, either. Jiraiya, that's impossible. Orochimaru's target is the Uchiha, my reliable sources confirmed it, he said, very sure of what he was saying. If that's true, you should change sources. Kabuto simply decimated the Anbu using Sasuke as a distraction to then go after his true target. Besides, he's Orochimaru's right-hand man and the latter wants Sasuke. Why did he want to kill him? He said, looking at Jiraiya, who had a serious face. Jiraiya thought about it, and it was true, he was more reliable. I thought he wanted to kill the girl, who possibly had information about him. Then Sasuke, since he even threatened the entire village so that Sasuke wouldn't disappear, it was illogical that he simply wanted him dead. And I also couldn't see Kabuto's lapdog trying to betray Orochimaru, if his information was true. The boy had been Orochimaru's right-hand man for years. It was impossible for him to simply be a traitor. Orochimaru would notice, and his sources would report if the two ever fought or showed any kind of distrust between them. Something that never happened. Naruto, or what? Can't you accept that they were interested in someone else besides Sasuke? He asked, tilting his head with his threatening gaze on Jiraiya, who sighed. Third, enough Naruto, no, that's not the point. He said to look at Jiraiya what he felt. Here Jiraiya, after checking the seal, wants to teach you for the Chunin exams since your sensei Hatake won't be available. I figured as much. Sasuke is always more important in the eyes of this village. But don't worry, old man. I don't need anyone to train me. I can take care of myself, he said, heading for the exit. He had nothing against Sasuke. He managed to get along with him for a while. But Sun did, just seeing how the two of them, who were practically equals, were treated in completely different ways. That angered him, and to avoid exploding with anger, he retreated with Kin but was stopped by the voice of the old man whom the third named Sannin. It's fine that you don't want to be trained by me, but I still have to check that seal before anything happens, she said, looking Naruto in the eyes, who wasn't at all perturbed by her tone. As I said before, the QB is fine, and the seal is intact. I'm no expert, but I could tell when my chakra and the seal will change. If that's not enough for you, find the Jinchuriki of the Sand Village and analyze him, he said, leading the way out. Hiruzen, regardless of your decision, we still need the girl to stay with us. If she was the one who suffered the attack, she should know why she suffered it. Kin, I won't stay with you, you can't just. Naruto cut her off before she could finish. She's not your shinobi, you have no power over her. Naruto crossed his arms. More than what her Kage allowed you, of course, and I'm sure you were never allowed to question her about village secrets or anything she doesn't want to talk about for political reasons. Jiraiya, that doesn't matter here. If she suffered an attack by the right hand of her leader, it's because she's going to be classified as a rogue ninja. The Sannin smiled because he would think he had Naruto in his hand, but what came now surprised him. Naruto. It's going to be. Doesn't count, Jiraiya. It's either, it is, or. It was. As long as she's not officially renegade, she remains under the care of the Sound Village. And I assure you, if you try anything, you'll already be giving them an excuse, politically, to do whatever they want with Konoha. I conclude with a small smile for having the argument in his favor. With this, no one could refute or contradict his arguments, unless it's something outside of political positions. And he was surprised. Normally, he would shout more than argue. And seeing that Victoria had already made up her mind, he withdrew. Jiraiya, you think your parents would be proud of your attitude. Those words will cause Naruto to stop his retreat and Jiraiya to smile for giving the boy a bingo. Wanting to know about his parents would make him accept his training, or so he assumed. It's not very wise to tell me whether they'd be proud or not. Although I think the real question is, would Minato and Kushina be proud that I suffered what you left me, third? Those words would make his eyes glow blue, but with darker pigmentation and a slight purple glow that wasn't as noticeable. It was as if the sky was covered by Hades for a few moments. Hiruzen, how? How do I know about my parents? It's irrelevant, and not very important to the conversation. I'm ending this conversation now that I can't see any way to change my mind. With that, Naruto and Kin left the office, leaving a third person upset with his student for having told the biggest secret about Naruto. Do you know what you've done, Jiraiya? Jiraiya smiled nervously. It's not that serious. Besides, he already knew and he's just angry. You said it yourself, the boy is too good for his own good. I should just let it go. I hope so, sighed the third. With Naruto and Kin. Naruto, shouldn't I be the one who's angry? He thought with a drop as he watched Kin kicking a tree. They had come to the forest with a sunshin for him to relax, or so she recommended, but the one who began to drain his anger was the same Kin while he looked at the sky calmer than he could think. Unknowingly, he was looking at the infinity of the cosmos, but with a blue hue from the light that entered directly from the atmosphere. Since he woke up, Naruto stopped being so imperative and began to be calm, sometimes lazy, and very thoughtful. He kind of liked that. He had no problem with being this way, even though it was very different from before. Being different, at least in attitude, wasn't so bad. Kin, that damn guy! Boom! A huge explosion echoed, leveling everything around them for over 100 meters. If they weren't out of Konoha right now, Naruto would surely be in legal trouble. When Naruto looked at the mess, he saw the kin with both arms outstretched and pointing where the explosion had happened. Can you also fire sound blasts? Didn't you think it was only your partner who could do it with the tubes on his arms? I started learning it a while ago, just in case I ever needed to escape from someone and couldn't handle my own techniques, but it consumes a lot of chakra and usually leaves me unconscious. Naruto, I don't see you unconscious, and according to the medical summaries, your chakra shouldn't be at 100%, approximately 56%. He said, but secretly he was looking at a kin profile screen that said exactly that. Appearance. Profile. Name, Kintsuchi. Job, Kunoichi. Title, Sound Ninja. Level 1. Fatigue 8. HP/life, 99/100. MP/energy, 32/200. Physical appearance. Strength 9. Speed 9. Agility 16. Reaction 18. Senses 6. IQ/intelligence 80. IQ in battle 90. Luck 45. Skills. Ninjutsu 7. Genjutsu 11. Taijutsu 10. Bojutsu 0. Kenjutsu 1. Kenjutsu 0. Fuinjutsu 0. Irininjutsu 0. Shirijutsu 10. Kin, why are you staring at me? I asked Naruto, who looked up at the girl's face. Naruto, I don't remember that worshipping beauty is a crime, but the sentence is everything. He smiled, looking at the girl, who blushed at his words, to turn her gaze to the other side with a frown. Stop being such an idiot, she said, seemingly annoyed, although Naruto knew this was just her way of handling the matter with her harsh attitude. Naruto, worshipping beauty isn't being an idiot, he said with his arms crossed. Kin, stop saying that, said Roha, pointing at Naruto, who stuck his tongue out at her. All right. I won't do that ever again, he promised with a small smile, looking at Kin, who nodded, happy to have won the argument, until his mind coldly analyzed the answer. And the great importance that Naruto gave to his two last words of the prayer resonated. Kin, hey, it doesn't have to be a never again, she said, looking at Naruto, who smiled, but didn't respond. You can call me that, but don't do it now, right now. Naruto, I'm sorry, but Naruto Uzumaki doesn't break his promises. Naruto smiled at how the girl acted. It was fun to tease her. But if you want, I will, just say, please, Naruto. He finished, faking a girl's voice that earned him a punch on the shoulder from the girl. Kin, I won't. The girl refused, looking away. She had a rude manner to maintain, and speaking that way wasn't like her. Naruto, whatever you say, but I won't call you beauty again, he said, arms crossed and eyes closed, although he opened one, looking at Kin, who apparently lowered his head in surrender. Kin, it's okay, I whispered with a pout. And Naruto smiled. There, you don't have. Please, Naruto-kun. Naruto blushed at the girl's cute and tender words. The girl's soft, friendly and tender voice caused him to have a nanosecond cardiac arrest, and the worst was the kun suffix, which caused a mental convulsion from the girl's cuteness and his embarrassment in action. I didn't even know what this was, but it was so amazing. In my heart, the girl was surprised to see Naruto faint. Out of fear that the boy would die, she began to slap the boy hard, who did not wake up. Then she continued to shake him, until out of fear she approached and kissed the boy's lips, causing him to come back to his senses. Naruto, if this is heaven, please God, don't reincarnate me in another universe for the next millions of years, he thought while kissing the girl, who stopped giving him air when she saw that he woke up. But she didn't stop kissing him until she ran out of air. Thank you, beauty, Naruto said with a small smile to the girl, who began to blush when she saw him. Kin, you're a pervert. You faked fainting so I'd kiss you, she said as she stood up from Naruto's lap. Or that was the plan because the latter held her arm, causing her to return to her place. Stay like that a little longer. I don't feel like doing anything right now, I whispered in a low tone while making the girl sigh, trying to refuse, but she still stayed in the position she was in on Naruto's lap. The boy didn't know what these feelings were, but he did know one thing. I like it. The Uzumaki System, Chapter 5. Naruto could be seen in front of Kin. They had both been fighting a few moments before, which had caused them to end in a strange way. Naruto was holding one of her hands, and she was grabbing onto his jacket, while she was about to fall on her back. This was due to a move by Naruto, who wanted to throw her to the ground during their fight. If you want to kiss me, I won't object, the girl said, looking at Naruto with her typical arrogant and self-confident look. Although Naruto tried to play along with his jokes. Naruto, is this a request or a suggestion? Who knows? You can take it as both. Naruto just smiled mockingly. Both of them let go, leaving the position misinterpretable. Both were very sweaty from the hours of training they had in that fight, plus the daily training that Naruto did, and that the girl accompanied him today left him very sweaty. Even when there was no bad smell around him. Naruto took off his jacket because of all the sweat he had on it, deciding to leave it on a tree along with his shinobi pants and ankle bandages and head towards the nearby lake hot springs. Naruto, wearing boxers, entered the water, which was like a natural hot spring. Like several places in Konoha, these waters were warm and bubbling. Perfect for a break. The black-haired man lay back on the shore as he let the water cover his body and relax his already tense muscles. Naruto closed his eyes to calm himself in the water. Making the most of these few minutes before being interrupted by someone on his team was all he had left to do. Or so he thought, until he felt something soft but at the same time firm on his back. Along with that sensation, two arms surrounded him, making the black-haired man open his eyes in doubt. "Shi. It's me being calm." Naruto recognized the voice as Kin's, causing him to calm down a bit, but the feeling on his back still made him uncomfortable. "Kin. Tell me. Do you have any clothes on?" The girl left the question hanging in the air, causing Naruto to slowly but surely turn a deep shade of red. His mind was already imagining the position they were in, and it was simply hot. "You saw me naked 2 days ago while I was taking a shower. There shouldn't be a problem with me being like this near you anymore," he said with amusement, as he leaned closer to the blue-eyed black-haired man. That's because I'm not used to living with someone else," he replied embarrassedly. "Besides, it was an accident. It's no excuse to do this," he whispered, looking away. Still embarrassed because if the girl didn't let go of him, he would probably faint right here and now. "Kin." Naruto turned around facing Kin, who had a small blush on his face. She had prepared for this the week after meeting the boy. The Uzumaki did more for her than her entire home village put together in this single week that she had been with him. And he can honestly say that these have been the best days of his life. She doesn't have to watch her back or have someone she trusts do it for her. She doesn't have to threaten every man she meets to stop them from asking her for nights out. And even better, being able to be with a guy she's in love with and not find out he only wanted her for her body, or getting some kind of favor from Orochimaru for it, as has happened to her many times before. Naruto. Naruto looked at the girl's face, getting a little closer and joining his lips with the girl's, who reciprocated his gesture by returning the kiss between them. To deepen, Naruto attaches himself even more to Kin, who placed his hands on Naruto's neck and sat on his lap to further deepen the already passionate and loving kiss between both genin. Due to lack of air, they both broke the kiss, slowly and lovingly, staring at each other with passion in their eyes, while a thin, slender thread still connected their lips, tempting each other to kiss again. "I love you, Kin," Naruto said, his voice stuttering with excitement. To kiss the girl again, she followed suit in a full-throttle tongue fight, dancing to the rhythm of the girl's mouth. Although Naruto gave in due to his lack of experience, Kin completely dominated the kiss. "That's my point. The Uzumaki's brunette mocked with a smile, but he only snorted in amusement at the mocking smile of the naked girl on top of his legs. Naruto, you beat me because I have no experience with this kissing thing, he said with a pout, looking to the side, still embarrassed by what he did and is doing right now. Kin, if you want, I can help you with that. Naruto. Maybe later, he replied, kissing the girl lightly again and staying in that position for a few more minutes, not wanting to break the comfortable silence between them. Naruto looked up at the sky, with the girl hugging him against her chest. Feeling her two breasts against his stomach, the boy tried to ignore it and looked up at the sky. This is already a habit, he thought, looking at the rising sun. He noticed something. It was almost noon. We should get out of here. It's training ground 7, and I'm sure Kakashi-sensei will come to train with Sasuke. The girl nodded, lowering her arms and turning around, slowly but steadily starting to climb out of the water, completely naked. Naruto looked away, with no intention of looking at her naked. The boy's face flushed, his gaze turning to the sky. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 and 2 is 6. 6 and 2 is 8 plus 8 16. Aren't you coming? Naruto stopped his thoughts because of the girl's question, who was now covered by a white towel, which was covering her decent and large chest for her age of 14. Naruto stared at her body, barely covered by a towel that left nothing to the imagination. However, upon noticing the smile on Kin's face, he turned his head again. Naruto, yes. Just give me a second, he said nervously along with his blush. Sigh. Naruto sighed to calm his altered chakra a little, and now calm, Naruto began to get out of the water. When the girl came out, she hugged him along with his towel, making their bodies united again. Only since they weren't underwater she let Naruto feel her big breasts against his toned one even more. Naruto felt the urge to kiss her, but held back and simply hugged her. I should get you dressed. The team should be on his way with Kakashi-sensei, he said, reaching in one direction. Monarch's ability, Dominant Hand. It's been activated. Next to the window appearing next to Naruto, a blue aura covered his hand, causing Kin's clothes and his to travel towards his direction with a blue aura around them. And as that happened, his eyes shone a deeper blue than the sky blue of his own. Monarch's ability, Dominant Hand, was deactivated. Cooldown, 10 seconds. Naruto cleared the window and they both dressed right there. Naruto had no problem being outside dressing, and Kin didn't seem to want to stop teasing him with her nakedness. Even so, Naruto turned his back on him. I need a good outfit. Naruto looked at his clothes, the same ones Jounin wore but without a vest. And he noticed that without a Chunin or Jounin vest, this dark blue expander wasn't as cool as it looked on his sensei. Don't fall behind. Kin tied her hair into a low ponytail as she slipped the vest over her gray camouflage shirt. Naruto, who finished wrapping the bandages on his ankle, stood up and stood behind Kin, walking out of the training grounds with his hands in his pockets. When they both left the Team 7 training camp, they ran into a Sasuke Uchiha with your typical blue clothes and Kakashi Hatake, who had his book in his hands reading it while they walked together. Seeing Naruto, Kakashi raised his hand in greeting. Naruto, how have you been? Naruto shrugged. Fine, I guess, he said simply, meaning he continued on his way, leaving his sensei with his teammate. He didn't want to talk to any of them right now, for several reasons. Kakashi and Sasuke stared at the back of Naruto and Kin, who never turned around. Sasuke, what the hell is wrong with him? I asked, looking at his retreating companion. Kakashi, he must be mad that I won't train him, but he'll get over it. The Hatake shrugged, his expression typically uninterested, though he still glanced at Naruto as he retreated. I think, he thought, remembering what the Hokage had told him about the boy. He wasn't very happy with him, and that was obvious, but he didn't have time to waste. Kakashi, never mind. We'd better get going. You still have to learn how to channel chakra and manipulate lightning before you can learn the Chidori, he said, continuing on his way alongside Sasuke, who snorted. Noticing this, Kakashi continued. Otherwise, you won't be able to beat heavyweights like the Sand Boy, Rock Lee, or Naruto himself, he said, turning his gaze back to his book. Her words irritated Sasuke a little, reminding him of what Kakashi himself had told him about Naruto's speed. He disappeared before everyone's eyes, along with Kiba, except for the Jounin themselves, and a few others around. With Naruto and Kin. They both lived in a small but expensive and well-furnished house. This house was her parents' home. Kushina, from what she heard, was called Bloody Habanero or Crimson Swordsman or something like that. Along with Minato Namikaze, the yellow flash of Konoha and fourth Hokage of the Leaf Village. The house was abandoned as far as he knew, so he took it over a week ago. It wasn't difficult, the house just sat there. And with a mailbox that had their names on it, it wasn't hard to put two and two together. "I'm the only one who's hot right now," he said in the tub next to Kin. They were both naked, and Naruto was the one in the back at the brunette's request, which he suspected was done on purpose for this moment. "Kin, I think so." The mockery was evident in his words as the girl adjusted herself, moving back slightly, pressing her body against the Uzumaki, who blushed bright red. He wasn't at all used to acts like these, since they had just had their first kiss today. But for some reason, they were already so far along in their relationship. And Naruto wondered, how did it escalate so quickly? After Naruto barely finished bathing, they both got dressed and ended up on the living room sofa. Naruto was sitting reading a cooking book, while Kin was sitting on his lap reading the same book next to the Uzumaki for no apparent reason. If you asked Naruto what Kin were, a week ago he'd say friends. But now he didn't know what to say. They acted like a married couple, even though they only kissed for the first time today. Wouldn't that make them friends with benefits? Naruto shrugged at the option, but maybe he'd just leave everything as it was for this whole week. Just friends. Naruto stopped reading his book for a second and looked up, seeing a window that gave him a reward. The same reward she always gave him when he finished his exercises, only this time it was late. When he does something, the window is always left for when he's calm, so it doesn't bother him at important times. System, you've completed today's challenge. You've earned 2 optional prizes. Choose one, a random box or 20 user points. Naruto took the points and let them go. He hadn't picked up the box in a week, having collected all the points since the final exams. All for a good cause. Why do you stare into space like that? Kin raised his head, looking at Naruto, who was staring into space. Sometimes you even look like a zombie. I was thinking, Naruto replied, an embarrassed smile on his face. Kin, it's amazing to see how you went from being a blonde who didn't think about anything to just thinking all the time. Naruto nodded. Very incredible. Even he was surprised by such changes. He went from being the weakest of his generation, not counting Sakura and Ino, to possibly the strongest of the entire generation, competing with older, more experienced people like the other genin in the Chunin exam. Time jump. After that, Naruto and Kin spent the entire morning talking or hanging out at the Uzumaki's new house. Until they reached a point where Kin was visibly tired, so much so that he ended up falling asleep. And Naruto, leaving her in the room, took the free time he had left of the day. Not wasting any time, Naruto left the house and began strolling through the village, making faces of disgust and some ignoring his presence, as always. It was no surprise that everyone figured out what it looked like. There were posters of the upcoming Chunin exams and their participants everywhere, and their names too. The black-haired man didn't pay much attention to those glances. He continued on his way, almost as if walking, toward an acquaintance he usually visited every day. Ending up at the training grounds, Naruto passed through the entrances. He caught a glimpse of Rock Lee, training with his father? Naruto still didn't know if he was his father or not, but the resemblance couldn't be taken away from him. Another one who was at the training grounds was the sand girl who trained, Temari of the Sand. The girl who was responsible for the great loss of trees at the Ninja Academy's training grounds. To prove her point, the girl moved the giant fan to create a high gust of wind that cut through trees like butter in a radius of up to 20 kilometers in diameter. Naruto had had many conversations with the girl, starting with him finding an excuse to approach her, and ending with him escorting the young woman home, and then returning to his own. Whistle. Temari turned around, noticing the raven-haired man. You're good. Lego noted, noting that, for the first time in his entire time watching her, she had such a destructive attack. Maybe she should be on my list of the most dangerous. He shrugged, not yet a problem for him. Temari, what do you want? Temari looked at the black-haired man, but put him aside to launch another wind technique, only this time it was a tornado that tore up tree trunks in a straight line. Nothing special. He shrugged. I was just passing by and saw you training. Temari nodded in agreement, swinging the fan to create 3 tornadoes, which spun in circles and descended into a single axis, keeping a certain area enclosed. I need one of those. Naruto approached Temari, who put away her fan, apparently finishing her training for today. What are you planning to do today so I can accompany you? Naruto shrugged. Ichiraku has a new ramen inspired by Suna spices. Naruto smiled, knowing that was reason enough. Besides, he himself was interested in the dish. Would old Ichiraku have made it for the Chunin exams? Temari. Ichiraku, isn't that the stand we went to a few days ago? Naruto nodded. It is inspired by Suna. It might be better than expected. Naruto, you say that because you're from Suna, right? Naruto smiled mockingly at Temari, who didn't respond, keeping the hard look she usually had, although Naruto still smiled because he knew it did affect her. Temari, stop asking stupid questions. Naruto snorted. He wasn't that stupid. It'd be better to just walk to lunch, he said with a pout. Temari shook her head. The boy was just as stupid as he had been at the beginning of the exam. Though he seems more bearable now, she thought, looking at the boy as she held a kunai in her hand. Will he be a problem in the future? The Uzumaki System, Chapter 6. At the small ramen stand, Naruto and Kin were waiting for their orders. You come here often, right? Kin asked, looking at a sign where Naruto was standing with 27 bowls of ramen around him, back when he was still blonde. Naruto looked at this with a blank face. You could say so, he said, smiling embarrassedly. When did old man Ichiraku put that there? He asked quietly, blushing in embarrassment. It's like a celebration that you passed the Chunin exams. The duo's gaze fell on a brown-haired, black-eyed teenager wearing a white scarf. She was next to a blue tablecloth draped over the white kimono that covered her body. Naruto, that's why. Naruto muttered, looking away. I have an image to maintain, and that's not helping. He huffed, crossing his arms. Although she did get a slap on the wrist from the girl. I don't care about that. Thank father when he gets back. Or I'll rip your ear off, said the I am girl with a tick on her head. Naruto stuck his tongue out at her, earning an even stronger ear squeeze from I am. All right, let me go. I am let go of Naruto's ear, while stroking his hair, ruffling his old hairstyle of short, fallen hair. Naruto fixed his hairstyle again, and stuck his tongue out at I am. Naruto, crazy, he said to the girl. A laugh was heard next to him, coming from Kin. He hid his laughter, and when he saw the angry Naruto, the laughter only increased. It's not funny, he muttered in a whisper. Yeah, she's not little at all. I am mocked the boy in a mocking voice. But for the laughs, who is this girl here, Naruto? You had a girlfriend and didn't introduce me to her? Naruto, don't start with that stuff. She's a friend. Kin, you don't kiss a friend, she said, earning the attention of I am and Naruto, surprised. Naruto for the fact that she revealed that so casually, and I am for knowing that the girl was really Naruto's partner. Well, it's like they say, isn't it? Between jokes, the truth comes out, the older girl surmised. Naruto ranted at Kin, completely blushing at what Tam had casually said. While I am laughed, looking at Naruto so embarrassed. It's not that bad. I dismiss Kin. And Naruto rolled his eyes at her. Either the Sound Village is weird, or you are weird, he said, slapping his hand in her face. I am, and they really kissed. The girl clapped her hands, simulating a kiss. Kin nodded with a disinterested look, and Naruto did the same, more resigned than anything. Well, we kissed for the first time yesterday. So we're still not sure if we're friends or something more. The boy shrugged. Then he turned to look at Ayam, who had her hands over her mouth, stifling a scream. Crocodile tears were streaming down her cheeks, her heart-shaped eyes staring at them both. Kin and Naruto stared blankly at the image. "You have a particular kind of acquaintance," Kin said, looking at Naruto, who shrugged. "Konoha itself is too peculiar," he said with a shrug. "Konoha is usually very kind to everyone, and that gave everyone around here that cheerful demeanor. Very open, too," he said calmly, remembering the man in the green suit. The best example of all of the Konoha way of life. "I don't know why Orochimaru has an interest here," Kin said, as she watched Ayam whispering things about Naruto and her. "Naruto, they're immature, but that doesn't diminish their strength. Well, they don't win 3 wars in a row with few losses for nothing," he said, resting his hand on the counter and placing his head in his hand. "Kin, I guess so," Kin said, still looking at Ayam with a drop of sweat. Naruto approached the girl and smiled at her. He earned her confused look. "And what's wrong with you?" Naruto simply kissed her, surprising Kin. But she reciprocated the intimate contact instantly, continuing the kiss for a few short but passionate seconds. They parted their lips and remained close to each other. Naruto gave her a small smile, while Kin stood still and blushed. "Why was that?" "Naruto, you're too cute when you're being rude," he said, smiling, with a small blush. I could tell he was attracted to strong-willed girls, or maybe it was just Kin and his assertive manner. "Kin, don't say things like that so suddenly," she said, blushing, turning her gaze away. "Naruto, I can't help it," he said now, a little embarrassed by his sudden and public actions. Naruto quickly turned to look at Ayam, who was standing with her mouth open at having witnessed the two boys' interaction. Hello?" Naruto nervously greeted the waitress, who was very, very surprised. "Okay, 2 orders are ready," said a male voice, and an older man named Tucci came from behind the ramen stand. The man left both orders on the counter. Orders that Naruto and Kin took to start eating them, with their respective, "thank you," before eating. "Oh, what's wrong, dear?" The man looked at his still stunned daughter, while Naruto laughed, and Kin gave a small smile. "Maybe they're nicer than I thought," Kin thought, watching Ayam's reaction. "Naruto is a womanizer." Naruto, wait, what? Ayam grabbed the ladle to hit the boy, who walked away. "Hey, crazy girl, stay away from me. I'm not a womanizer," she said, dodging the girl's blows while blocking others with chopsticks. "Ayam, if you're a womanizer, your way of acting is one's." "Naruto, that doesn't even make sense," he said with a blank face, moving sideways to avoid a ladle. "Tucci, calm down, Ayam. I don't know what happened, but I'm sure it's just a mix-up." The girl looked at her father, who, upon meeting her eyes, raised his hands to reinforce his words. "You can't defend that behavior, father. If you don't correct it now, Naruto will be out there with any girl who will accept a smile from him." Tucci's sweat dropped, and so did Naruto. "Just because I can charm any girl doesn't mean I'll do it," he said, jumping up and sticking to the ceiling of the ramen restaurant, staying away from Ayam, who was jumping up and down to hit them. "Ayam, I know you won't, I'll make sure of it," she said, trying to hit the black-haired Uzumaki, who laughed, closing her eyes and crossing her arms. "You won't be able to hit him here, so you'd better out." At that moment, the boy fell to the ground, having been hit on the head by the ladle. Getting up from the ground, Naruto looked at Ayam in front of him, her arms crossed, her expression serious. "Good morning?" Ayam adjusted her kimono sleeves, and Naruto gulped. "You can't kiss your future partner anymore, that's womanizing. We live in a society." Bang. Later. Naruto was at home with Kin, both of them in the bathtub again. While Naruto was being slapped on both cheeks, Ayam slapped him about 8 times while repeating something so he wouldn't continue being a womanizer. "It's not that bad," Kin said, looking at the boy's cheeks. He did get hit, though he didn't seem to be in the mood to protect himself from the blows either. "So tell me, Mr. Womanizer, did you learn your lesson?" Naruto remained silent for a few minutes. He looked at the quiet boy, until he turned to look at her with a smile. "What's wrong with you?" he asked, his face blank. While Naruto shook his head. It's just that it makes him a little funny how I'm here. Things used to be so ordinary, and now I'm just with you like we're married. Kin smiled. I can say the same. I didn't imagine myself with you, much less here as a couple, she said, hugging Naruto and settling into her chest. Yeah, I don't see you as you were before either, he said, remembering himself before. Clearly smaller and more radiant, his tan skin, blonde hair, and giant smile gave him a bright aura. Kin, it's not like you're that different, though your appearance has changed. I don't see much difference in certain areas. Kuin shrugged and Naruto looked at her with a raised eyebrow. Naruto, so is that good or not? Kin, you could say that, even if you don't change your appearance, I'll grow to like you, even if it's just a little. As long as you don't shout so loudly. He whispered the last part, turning his head to the side. Naruto laughed. Yeah, I think so. Naruto dismissed, as a yawn came from Kin. Are you tired? Kin nodded. I'd rather get some sleep, she said, smiling, then kissed Naruto, who did the same. See you after my little sleep. Naruto watched the retreating girl, while he himself thought about doing something. However, a system call made him realize something. You've reached 350 points. Naruto looked out the window, as far as he could remember. He left it at 330, but maybe that's the 20 points from today's exercise. That's only 350, at this rate I'll have. Naruto started counting on his fingers. Naruto, in 19 days I'd have over 730 at this rate. And with a few missions, maybe I'll reach 1,000 or even more. I thought, doing the math. Having large amounts should allow me to get better things. Naruto. This is boring, he whispered, stepping out into the front yard of the house and looking up at the sky. He decided to search for something in the system. He began searching through the different functions it had. Naruto analyzed that besides the shop, where all the ways to get things were, there were the daily training orders, the profile, and the notifications where the missions the system gave him were always posted. And the inventory. Naruto and nothing new. Naruto analyzed the system. He knew there were more things for him. But he couldn't figure out what to do to get more things. Maybe I need to level up, Naruto wondered to himself. Looking at your profile again. Appearance. Name Naruto Uzumaki. Occupation, Shinobi. Title, Leaf Village's #1 Dumb-Headed Ninja. Level 1. Fatigue 0. HP/life, 200/200. AM/energy, 400/400. Luck 96. Physical appearance. Strength, 41. Speed 40. Agility, 34. Reaction, 24. Sentiso, 33. IQ/intelligence, 140. IQ in battle, 180. Skills. Taijutsu 9. Ninjutsu 2. Genjutsu 1. Kenjutsu 8. Bukujutsu 1. Fuinjutsu 0. Kenjutsu 2. Bojutsu 1. Ironinjutsu 1. Nintaijutsu 6. His level was still at the first level. He didn't know how to raise his level either. Maybe it just happened on its own or something? Naruto removed the system and stood up. He should do something for today. Maybe go running around Konoha? No, too boring. Going to eat at Ichiraku? He did it 4 hours ago, just like he had recently. He wasn't as hungry as he used to be. Now he could eat his usual 3 meals and never feel hungry in between. Should I go weapon shopping? I could get some ninja reserve packs from the system with a few purchases, so going shopping wasn't a good idea. Besides, no one else would sell me weapons besides an acquaintance. He didn't blame them. When they did it in the past, it ended up being joked about everywhere. So he was exonerated on all counts, which is typical after giving them 3 chances. I think too much and I'm bored, I whisper, yawning. Naruto, I'll just walk this way, and whatever Kami wants come to pass, he said, placing his hands on the back of his head. -2 and 2 are 4, and 4 and 2 are 6, 6 and 2 are 8, and 8 is 16. 16 and 2 are 18. I don't know what else to sing, so I'll make it up. He hummed with a smile as he continued walking, until he caught a kunai flying toward him, and when he opened his eyes, Naruto looked to his side, where two more or less well-known people were training. We're sorry about that, Naruto. Ino's just learning to throw a shuriken with spin. Naruto smiled. It doesn't matter, Chuji. Naruto looked at his friend, Chuji Akimichi, a chubby, overweight boy with swirl tattoos on his cheeks and a ninja bandana like underwear on his head. Naruto took the kunai and pulled out a shuriken. Before you make them take effect, you must know how you want the effect to look and if that type of effect is possible. He told the two members of Team 10, as he threw the shuriken, which spun 90 degrees. Before it could hit, the kunai collided with the shuriken, resulting in the shuriken spinning 180 degrees toward the vine Ino and Chuji were aiming for. Ino looked at this in surprise. Wow! The blonde looked surprised at the black-haired man's actions. Since when are you so good at this kunai and shuriken thing? Naruto entered training ground 16, where the two former classmates were training. Well, it's easy to do when you calculate the grades, strength, and speed. Naruto pulled his shuriken from the vine. If you're planning on training in such complicated methods, you should do it at training ground 12. It's farther from the roads, and therefore less dangerous. Naruto raised an eyebrow. I told Shikamaru, didn't he tell you? Both boys denied, earning a drop of sweat from Naruto. I know it's vague, but this is already the limit, Naruto whispered to himself. Well, it doesn't matter. It's not that important either. I don't know how I ended up like this. I just woke up like this and that's it, he said, putting away his shuriken as he continued on his way away from Team 10, or its two members. Goodbye, and Chuji. When I win the Chunin exam finals, I expect a discount at your father's restaurant. Naruto continued on his way with a smile on his lips, and Chuji spoke, or practically shouted. That's what it will be like. The boy smiled as he went back to eating his fries. You two are really close, aren't you? Ino spoke to her childhood friend, who had a good relationship with the Uzumaki. Chuji ate his chips. Well, we've known each other since the academy. I don't see why we wouldn't get along, he said, going back to eating, while Ino finished with a blank face. Don't eat while you talk, you pig! Elsewhere. Naruto walked with a smile. That short but pleasant chat with both members of Team 10 was enough to give him a little encouragement on this boring afternoon. And I noticed something. When he's not with Kin, he doesn't know what to do all day. It's like being with her makes time irrelevant, but when she's not around, all time becomes relative, and everything is so boring. Maybe I should bother someone else. But who? Kiba must be with his clan, and the dogs there still hate me for the cat joke. Shikamaru must be sleeping or playing shogi, and I don't understand any of it. And Shino, maybe I won't even be able to find him. Naruto snorted to the side, and there went the list of friends and acquaintances from Konoha. He really should try to expand that list of friends. It's very small within Konoha. And those were all of his friends from Konoha. Naruto heard a loud bang and smiled. Everyone in Konoha, not everyone in general. Naruto smiled as he ran towards a training ground he knew. Entering training ground number 15, Naruto saw that inside there was a complete gale. Hey, I know this is part of your training. But I doubt they'll let you train safely if you cause bad weather for the entire village, joked the boy, standing in a tree that was being pushed and tilted at over 70 degrees by the strong breezes. Temari, the one causing all this, looked at the boy standing in the middle of the storm. If I wanted to change the entire weather in the land of fire, I'd have to use a little more than this. He spoke, stopping his jutsu and putting away his fan form. I was wondering when you were coming. Do you have an excuse for coming, or will you be honest this time? Naruto, I was bored and came to see what you're doing, although the idea only came when I saw that you were planning to destroy the entire training camp 15. He said, while placing his hands in his pockets. Temari nodded. So what do you think? Naruto raised an eyebrow. What do I think? Temari nodded. Well, every time I see you, you seem to be more resistant to using these powerful techniques. But you'll still be facing an Aburame, Raw power isn't the best option, he said, leaning against a nearly fallen tree trunk. Oh, are you friends with the Aburame? Naruto nodded. Yes, sort of. I don't know if he considers me a friend, but he's someone dear to me, he said, pushing the log down and using it as a seat. That's why I won't reveal anything about him. Not that I have much to reveal. He whispered the last thing to himself, which Temari still heard. So what do you recommend? The blonde from the sand asked doubtfully. Naruto thought about it for a moment, and then thought about it again. What day and time is it today? Temari was confused. Sunday, it's almost 4 p.m. What does that have to do with my question? The girl from the sand spoke, confused. Naruto smiled. Well, maybe I don't have a brain, but I have an idea.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.